Before my grandma passed away, she begged my dad to bury her and my grandpa separately. "This is what you promised me, you must not deceive me." My dad nodded as if he understood, but after my grandma passed away, he still buried them together. When I tried to stop him, my dad slapped me. "They've been together for decades. She says to separate them now?" My dad is still waiting for her to serve him down there. The day after the joint burial, all the livestock in the house died overnight. The invited blind Chen's face changed drastically. The chief ghost is born, first killing the livestock, then the relatives. "Looks like someone in your family is planning to open the coffin." Chapter 1. My grandma is dying. She has been lying in bed without eating or drinking for 2 days. But she still refuses to close her eyes, unwilling to take her last breath. Many people come in and out of the house, all relatives rushing here for the funeral. They stand at the door smoking, loudly discussing when my grandma will die. The tone, from the initial excitement, turns into disgust. "Unbelievable, the family says it's a funeral, so I came to get some blessings. I took 3 days off specifically, and it's already been 2 days. Who knows, right? Since we're here, let's wait a few more days. If one dies here and another there, it'll be troublesome. You say the old lady won't close her eyes, is there some unfulfilled wish? Who knows? If it's really because of that, the children in this family are quite unfilial." The discussion is not subdued at all, clearly intentional. My dad squats at the door with a grim face, chain-smoking one cigarette after another. It's not until he finishes a pack that he seems to make some kind of decision and comes to my grandma. "Mom, can't you trust me yet? You can rest assured and leave, don't let the relatives cause a scene, okay?" When my dad said this, my grandma's lifeless eyes flickered. "Son." She was calling my dad. Don't lie to Mom." It's been so long since she spoke, my grandma's voice sounds like a bellows, gasping every few words. "Not lying to you." My dad gritted his teeth, as if wanting to say something, then swallowed it back. "You've lived your whole life like this. I really don't know what trouble you're causing on your way out." After saying this, as if unable to contain his anger, he got up and left. My grandma lay in bed, still gasping for breath. I held the burial clothes, touching my grandma's arm, now so thin it's just bones, and the tears couldn't be stopped. "Grandma, I don't want you to go. In this family, no one likes me except Grandma. Grandma passed away, and now I'm just a child that no one wants." Grandma didn't speak. Those 2 sentences just now took all her strength. Now she can only look at me, take a long breath, and close her eyes. Grandma is gone. Chapter 2. Your grandma is gone, why are you staring like that? My mom came in from outside, nudged my grandma, confirmed she was dead, and there was a hint of joy in her voice. "The relatives outside have been waiting for 2 days. If we make them wait any longer, they'll hold a grudge. Hurry up and dress your grandma properly. The coffin has been waiting for days." I wiped away a tear and, amidst my mom's nagging, changed my grandma's clothes. Grandma was very thin, but had many scars on her body. Those were from the beatings she endured from Grandpa when she was young. But other than me, it seemed like no one else could see them. No one felt sorry for Grandma. Taking so long to change clothes. Impatiently, my mom pushed me aside. "Go outside and tell your dad to set off the firecrackers, then ask when the burial will be tonight. In our customs, firecrackers are set off during funerals." "But bury her tonight? It's already past 6 o'clock, even if there's no wake, won't the funeral home have closed by now?" "Yes. Your grandpa's coffin has been dug up for 2 days, just waiting for your grandma to close her eyes." My mom glanced at me, as if she remembered something, and scolded me coldly. "Don't be like your grandma, at such an old age, not knowing how to save your children some trouble. She doesn't even want a joint burial. Does she know how troublesome a joint burial is now? Typical of being unable to enjoy good fortune. I got anxious. But Grandma doesn't want a joint burial. She said, once burned and scattered, it's done. Dad agreed too. Your dad just wanted your grandma to pass away peacefully. As she spoke, my mom had already changed Grandma's clothes. Seeing me standing still, with a drooping face. What's this? Are you getting bold now? My words don't work on you anymore? In the past, when my mom said this, it meant I was going to get a beating. But now I'm not afraid of getting hit, I just want to fulfill Grandma's final wish. Please. Mom. You know, this is Grandma's only wish. I tugged at her sleeve, cautiously speaking. Mom, before Grandma got sick, she gave you all her jewelry. You promised her. Keep your voice down. My mom abruptly covered my mouth, glanced around to make sure no one noticed, and then breathed a sigh of relief. If your aunt finds out about this, the whole house will be turned upside down. You can't stand to see the family doing well, can you? Besides, who can persuade your dad? Let me tell you, those pieces of jewelry your grandma left were for your school fees. If you want to make a scene, forget about going to school. I'd rather not go to school. My voice raised as well. I won't go, I can pick up trash to support myself. What about your brother? What about your sister? My mom's tone turned cold. Our family isn't like your aunt's, we definitely can't afford to support 3. If you've made up your mind, go talk to your dad. Fine, I will. I gritted my teeth and for the first time, I resisted. My dad promised my grandma, a promise is a promise, it must be kept. Through sheer determination, I found my dad, who was smoking. Seeing me, he rarely smiled at me. Why are you out here? Is it your grandma? My grandma passed away. As I uttered those 4 words, my voice choked up involuntarily. Mom said, today they want to bury Grandma and Grandpa together. But before Grandma closed her eyes, Dad, you promised. You said Grandma wouldn't. Before I could finish, my dad swung his arm and slapped me hard. Chapter 3. You damn brat. You think you're all high and mighty just because you've learned a little bit of writing like your grandma. My dad's slap was very forceful. I had a moment of ringing in my ears. But soon, my dad's scolding seemed to enter my ears through some kind of barrier. We've been together for decades, weathered all sorts of storms. If she doesn't want to be buried with your grandpa, then who does she want to be buried with? I think you've been a bad influence on your grandma. What kind of logic is this? If I knew you were such a troublemaker, I shouldn't have listened to your grandma and raised you. No. It's not like that. I wanted to argue. But as soon as I opened my mouth, my head started spinning. You promised my grandma, my mom also agreed, Grandma gave all. Another slap. This time from my mom. She didn't stop after knocking me down, she straddled me and kept hitting me frantically. I've raised a debt collector. You've had a strange personality since you were young, and now that your grandma is gone, you still want to cause trouble? You're making your grandma's final journey restless. I curled up, holding my head. The surrounding voices fluctuated in volume. When I regained consciousness, I was already kneeling in front of my grandma's bed. Outside, my mom's shouts hadn't ceased. She called me a disrespectful and ungrateful debt collector. Intermixed with relatives' words of agreement. Let her kneel in front of her grandma and reflect properly. The child is still young, teach her slowly. Reflect? What could I reflect on? I cried uncontrollably, holding my grandma's hand. Not because no one protected me from being hit. But because I knew I couldn't stop those adults. Grandma, Grandma. How could you believe all those wolves and tigers in the house? How could you believe that bad bamboo can yield good shoots? Chapter 4. Because of this incident, I was locked in the house during Grandma's burial. As the night darkened, I watched them carry Grandma out. In the flickering light, I saw Grandma's eyes unnaturally wide open. Shouldn't Grandma's eyes be closed? I should have felt scared. But inexplicably, a hidden joy rose from within me. I knelt down, quietly praying in Grandma's direction. Grandma, if there really are ghosts in this world, come back and avenge yourself. The moon hung high in the sky, covered by dark clouds from somewhere unknown. I fell into a deep sleep while praying. Chapter 5. God damn it! Which cursed dog brought disaster to our chickens? As the day broke, I was awakened by my mom's yelling. My legs were sore and numb from kneeling all night. I struggled to get up and walked to the window. My mom was holding a few chickens, jumping at the door. No one looks after their dogs properly, they've caused havoc with my chickens. Damn it! Don't they see what I'm dealing with here? Today was the final day of the funeral, and many relatives had come early to help. Seeing my mom jumping around, one by one, people gathered around to inquire about the situation. Weren't these chickens fine? How did they get harmed? I think they bought sick chickens. I'm telling you, your old lady is in mourning. No matter how tight the budget is, you shouldn't bring in sick chickens at a time like this. Sick chicken? That's nonsense. My mom became flustered, shaking the dead chicken in her hand, her face turning red. Look at these legs, all a bunch of stupid chickens. Look at the 2 eyes on the chicken's neck. Definitely bitten by someone's dog. As my mom spoke, she displayed the chicken in her hand. As the surrounding people watched for a while, before they could finish discussing, my dad's angry voice came from the back room. Damn it! Who poisoned my Big Black? Big Black was the dog my dad had raised since childhood. To be blunt, my dad's feelings for the dog were much deeper than for me. My room only had a window facing the front yard, so I couldn't see what was happening in the back room. I could only hear my dad's increasingly angry cursing. A few neighbors around went towards the backyard. After a while, my dad's angry voice suddenly stopped. The entire back room fell silent without a sound. This kind of silence made me uneasy. Soon enough, I saw my dad's figure again. He was holding a knife, his face pale, as he rushed towards my mom. Behind him, a group of relatives were equally tense. What's going on? My mom was startled. Without replying to her, my dad snatched the chicken from her hand and made a few cuts. Silence once again enveloped the scene. What on earth had happened? Just as the question arose, I finally heard someone tremblingly speak up. This chicken also has no blood. Also? No blood? What could this possibly mean? Chapter 6. Things seemed very serious. Before long, the old village chief and a few others walked in. After discussing for a while, they brought in another person. It was Blind Chen from the neighboring village. He arrived in a hurry, his gray hair unkempt and tangled. After entering the courtyard, he used his ever-present cane to tap around the yard. My parents followed behind him, their faces covered in cold sweat. The cane kept tapping, paused in front of my door for a moment, then continued inside, finally stopping at the room where my grandma took her last breath. Have you done something disrespectful to the elderly? No one answered. My mom hid behind my dad, stammering in defense. It's not that bad. Nonsense. I shouted through the window. You promised Grandma not to bury her with Grandpa. You deceived her. You little brat. Always talking back. Hearing my voice, my mom instantly got angry. This is adult business, what do you know? You're all liars. You. That's enough. Blind Chen coldly interrupted my mom. Indeed, wait until we go to the old lady's grave to find out. To the grave? Are you saying this dead person can crawl out of the grave? My mom nervously looked around, seeking approval. But no one spoke up. Then who's going to go see? Silence once again filled the air. The crowd's gaze turned towards my dad and my uncle's family. If it was truly related to my grandma, it would definitely be these two sons who would go. My uncle pulled my aunt back a step. Big brother, I told you. You handle mom's affairs, the funeral money is all yours. Now that something has happened, you're responsible. But it wasn't you. Mom. My mom wanted to argue, but my dad pulled her back, silencing her. The funeral money collected this time was quite substantial. If my uncle got jealous, we might lose half of it. My mom didn't dare to go, nor could she bear to let my younger brother and sister go. After circling around, her gaze landed on me. Let Hua go. She was closest to her grandma. In case something happens. In case something happens, my grandma wouldn't harm me. Without seeking my opinion, everyone tacitly agreed to this arrangement. The door was opened, and I was led in front of Blind Chen. He fished out 2 bells and red ropes from his pocket, instructing me. Go to your grandma's grave. If you don't see anything unusual, it's fine. But if you see your grandma, tie these bells to her wrists and use this red rope to bind her feet. The crowd gasped in shock. Blind Chen's words were almost explicitly accusing my grandma. The return of the dead. Isn't that a zombie? Chapter 7. I don't want to go. But under my mom's watchful eyes, I set off. The rural dirt road was moist with dew. The bells in my hand remained silent, as if muted, no sound emerging. Following the footprints from the night before, I arrived at my grandpa's grave. The massive mound stood tall in the dark night, like my silent grandma for a lifetime. The front of the grave mound was intact. I didn't know whether to breathe a sigh of relief or cry for my grandma. Had my grandma escaped from people all her life, or had she been forced to be locked away? I knelt down, crying, and knocked my head 4 times. Grandma, I'm powerless, allowing you to be bullied even after death. When I have the ability, I will fulfill your wishes. After knocking my head, as I was about to leave, the silent bells in my hands suddenly rang out. The sound grew increasingly urgent, as if reminding me of something. I stood up dazedly and saw a patch of green behind the grave mound. That was the color of the longevity robe my grandma wore last night. The bells rang even more urgently. I walked around the back of the grave mound. There was a large hole in sight. More prominently, next to the hole, lay my grandma in silence. Although it was only one night, her nails had grown considerably. I felt no fear in my heart, only endless heartache. All those nails were caked with red soil. I couldn't bear to think how my grandma had climbed out. Approaching, I confirmed that I hadn't imagined things the day before. My grandma's eyes were wide, filled with resentment. Grandma. I hugged her tenderly, tears falling into her eyes. I tried to close her eyes. But no matter how many times I tried, her eyes remained wide open. The bells rang louder. It seemed to urge me to quickly complete what Blind Chen had instructed. But how could I do it? This was my grandma. Grandma, you protected me when I was young. Now it's my turn to protect you. Whatever it is, go ahead and do it. I released my grandma's hand, kissed her face, and covered her with plenty of grass. I found a stone nearby and forcefully smashed the annoying bells until they couldn't make a sound anymore. And the red rope. Blind Chen said to use it to tie my grandma. But why should I tie her up? Those people are the bad ones. The red rope, made of an unknown material, was very tough. I couldn't tear it apart, not even with my teeth. After hesitating for a while, I simply crawled through the large hole in the grave mound and went in. The hole led directly to the coffin. It got darker the further I went. Luckily, there were no insects or snakes. I held the red rope and felt around to tie up the scattered bones. Once I finished, I hurriedly retraced my steps back. Chapter 8. The courtyard at home was now filled with people. Seeing me return covered in mud, they gasped in shock. From the reactions of the people around him, Blind Shen guessed what had happened. "Did you follow my instructions?" "I did." I nodded firmly. Regardless of whether I followed the instructions, both tasks were completed. "Then let's wait." "Wait for what?" someone in the crowd asked. "You fool. We're definitely waiting for that person to come tonight." "Oh my. Is that person human or a ghost?" Amidst the discussions, the crowd slowly dispersed. A few timid ones left with their families. My second uncle and second aunt didn't stay long either, using the excuse of the holiday ending to drive away. Only a few brave ones remained, squatting on the side, preparing to take a few more days off and start a live stream. What if this goes viral? My mom, who was initially flustered, seemed thoughtful after hearing this remark. Blind Shen remained calm. Occasionally, he used his cane to dig a hole in the courtyard and bury something. I made a mental note of those holes, ready to dig them all up if I had the chance. I don't know if Blind Shen did it intentionally or unintentionally. Throughout the day, whenever I tried to move away from his sight, he would find an excuse to keep me by his side. As night fell and I still hadn't had the chance to dig up anything, I started feeling anxious. But what worried me even more was my mom and the others. A few people stood in front of the window of my room, holding their phones aimed at the courtyard, intending to record this unscientific scene. My dad, on the other hand, was absent. Blind Shen had warned that the entity was bloodthirsty. Once the poultry was gone, it would turn to humans. So my dad took the time to go buy chickens and ducks. He went late, and most of the live animals were already sold out. After some delay, he managed to buy several dozen live animals. "Throw them all in the courtyard," Blind Shen instructed my dad. My dad didn't complain at this moment. Without even time to drink water, he quickly unloaded everything from the car into the courtyard. I hurried to help. While untying the legs of the chickens and ducks, I also dug up what Blind Shen had buried at noon. It was several small packets of red sand-like substance. It should be cinnabar. Without much thought, I threw the items into the toilet and flushed them away. Chapter 9. After a few hours of hard work, everything was finally cleaned up. Blind Shen and I sat at the front door of the main hall. The others had all gone into my room. The old lady loved Hua the most when she was alive. She definitely wouldn't want to harm her. Blind Shen didn't say anything, just gave me a long look. Although I knew he couldn't see anything, I still felt a bit uneasy inside. "Turn off all the lights and wait in peace." Blind Shen gave another command. There were a few complaints in the room. But soon, apart from the twinkling light from the phones, all other sources of light disappeared. Only the moonlight remained. The moonlight tonight was very bright. It illuminated the whole courtyard. As time passed by second, the voices grew fewer and fewer. I squatted by Blind Shen's chair, nodding off slightly, feeling a bit drowsy. I didn't know how long had passed when Blind Shen lightly tapped me with his cane. I jolted awake. It was then that I realized how eerily quiet it was tonight. The chirping of insects, the croaking of frogs. All sounds had disappeared. I subconsciously held my breath. Following Blind Shen's gaze, I looked over. That was when I noticed. At some point, there was a humanoid figure standing on the wall. The figure had no discernible face, only the red rope on its feet stood out prominently. How could this be happening? I stood there in a daze. Wasn't that thing tied to my grandpa's bones? Chapter 10. Before I could ponder further, I felt a gaze fixated on me. Subconsciously, I avoided the gaze and hugged the leg of Blind Shen's chair. There was a rustling sound coming from my room. They seemed to have also noticed the humanoid figure. The noise diverted the figure's attention. It stood there, motionless for a long time, seemingly hesitating whether to go towards the people in the house or the chickens and ducks in the courtyard. My heart raced, almost leaping out of my throat. Suddenly, Blind Shen stood up. He fished out a knife from his pocket, then went to the courtyard and grabbed a chicken. After slitting the chicken's throat, he forcefully threw it towards the humanoid figure. Despite being blind, I couldn't fathom how he managed to do all this. The chicken blood had no particular smell. But for the humanoid figure, it seemed like the most delicious feast. Without hesitation, it hopped over from the wall, caught the chicken, and forcefully bit into it. The fresh blood excited it. 1 chicken, 2 chickens, 3 chickens. 1 duck, 2 ducks, 3 ducks. In the darkness, the sounds of bones breaking and blood sucking were amplified countless times. Yet, that wasn't the most terrifying part. The most terrifying part was, even though the entity didn't stop feasting, its gaze remained fixed on the window of my room, filled with greed and longing. Chapter 11. This kind of one-sided slaughter didn't end until daybreak. Only when the sun rose high did the people in the house come out. Everyone had heavy dark circles under their eyes. Those who claimed to be brave didn't even exchange greetings, rushing to leave my house. My mom was trembling, murmuring, "Why can't we capture it on camera? Such extraordinary beings can't be captured naturally." Blind Shen casually replied, changing the subject. "This entity has quite the expertise and has targeted your household." "What do you mean by targeting our house?" My mom subconsciously screamed, then abruptly covered her mouth. When she spoke again, her voice was tinged with a sob. "This is a disaster. I said we should have burned it directly. You insisted on saving money, and now, the lives of the whole family are at stake." My dad also looked embarrassed. "I suggested saving money, didn't you agree? Besides, you were the one who took all those jewelry pieces from Mom. Those were originally meant for our second daughter's education, and you melted them down to give to your brother. If I were Mom, I wouldn't let you off either." My mom's face turned red with embarrassment. If it weren't just family present, she might have been so embarrassed that she'd jump into the river. Both of them were at fault. After a brief eye contact, they both turned to seek help from Blind Shen. Blind Shen remained calm and always had an answer ready. "Have you ever heard of a ghost wraith?" Ghost wraith, a term from the countryside. Different from zombies that need a long time to develop. Ghost wraiths are generally formed in an instant due to the strong resentment of the deceased. These entities have no natural enemies, they aren't afraid of fire or light, and the usual methods won't work against them. Seeing my parents' faces turn pale, Blind Shen continued slowly. "When a ghost wraith emerges, it first kills livestock, then kills blood relatives. The one in your house seems to be planning to lift the coffin lid." Chapter 12. Blind Shen, "No, Master Chen, you can't just stand by and watch." My parents were getting anxious. "I definitely want to help." Blind Shen sighed. "There's a bit of blood relation between your family and me. If the ghost wraith truly manifests, even I won't escape death." With that statement, my mom's expression softened slightly. But soon, with one remark from Blind Shen, the faces of everyone in the house turned grim again. "Hua, I have one question for you. Don't lie to this old blind man. Did you really tie the bells to your grandma yesterday? Did you really bind her feet with the red rope?" My heart was pounding as I faced my parents' fierce and stern gazes. I licked my lips, then confidently answered. "I did everything." "I mean, did you do it exactly as I instructed? You know whether the answer is yes or no." I swallowed hard and hoarsely replied, "Yes." "You're lying." My mom lunged at me and slapped me. "You damn liar. I've raised you for years, I know everything about you, you're definitely lying. Where did you put those things? Do you want to harm us?" I didn't. I held my ground. The only thought in my mind was to protect my grandma. Everyone else seemed to want to harm her. Whether it was family or this sudden appearance of Blind Chin, they couldn't stand to see my grandma well. Blind Chin coldly watched me being beaten by my mom, then stopped her with his cane. Enough, she'll have to retie them later. My mom finally let go. After venting out her anger, she seemed to regain some composure. Later, take your dad's phone with you. I'll watch you do it. No, what if she calls the police or runs away? My dad objected. What do we do then? This girl is too cunning, I can't trust her without seeing it myself. We have the surveillance system at home, right? Later, let her take the surveillance footage with her, and we'll watch on our phones. The two of them discussed in front of me, completely disregarding my thoughts. Once they had finished their discussion, Blind Chin took out the same bells and red rope from his bag as yesterday. I eagerly accepted them. Not because I was scared, but because I wanted to see if the red rope on the humanoid figure's leg was really my grandma's. If I refused, this family would definitely not let me leave the house. Chapter 13. One hand holding the surveillance footage, the other the bells. I followed the same path as yesterday and arrived at the grave mound again. Go around to the back of the grave mound. Blind Chen's voice came through the surveillance. Ignoring his instructions, I casually threw the items in my hand out. I had successfully gotten out, so who would still listen to their orders? Ignoring the furious yelling coming from the surveillance, I walked over to where I had covered the grass yesterday. A day and a night had passed. The grass on my grandma's body had turned yellow. Brushing aside the grass, the first thing I saw was still her wide-open eyes. Next, I noticed the dried blood at the corners of her mouth. In just a few short hours, her nails had grown longer, and her teeth had protruded slightly. Could it be that the thing from last night was really my grandma? I cleared away all the grass, looking at her ankles. Empty. The thing from last night wasn't my grandma. I gazed at the large hole in front of me, feeling a chill run down my spine. I had a premonition. That thing from last night must be hidden in the hole. That thing might be my grandpa. The stuff I had tied up might not have been bones, but my grandpa, who had dried up into skin and bones. The bell in my arms rang for no reason, sending shivers down my spine. Despite it being broad daylight, I broke out in a cold sweat. Without further thought, I hoisted my grandma and ran towards home. If it was my grandpa, I wouldn't stand a chance. If it was my grandpa, my grandma wouldn't be able to escape either. I had to find Blind Chin. Chapter 14. When I got home, only Blind Chin was left. He seemed to have no doubts as I brought back my grandma, instructing me to hide her under the bed. Your parents have taken your sister and brother back to the county town. Blind Chin said this with a smile. What do you young people call this behavior? Foolishness? I watched Blind Chin warily, unsure of how to react. Don't be so serious. Seeing my lack of response, Blind Chin became more intrigued. Now that this old blind man is in a good mood, I'll answer any questions you have. I bit my lip, unable to resist the temptation. Do you know who that thing from last night was? Who else could it be besides that old beast of your grandpa? Blind Chin retorted. You don't really think it was your grandma, do you? I turned my head away, embarrassed to admit that I had actually thought it was her. Blind Chin, being unable to see, ignored my small gestures. I continued to ask. Do you have a feud with my grandpa? Blind Chin replied. You could say that. Oh. After hearing this, I didn't press further. Regardless of the reason, as long as I knew Blind Chin wouldn't spare my grandpa and wouldn't harm my grandma, it was enough. Just, oh? The Blind Chin turned to where I was, somewhat incredulous. You don't want to ask anything else? I shook my head. Thinking about his blindness, I added. I don't want to ask any more. Raising his voice, Blind Chin asked. You really don't want to know? If you really want to say, I can listen. Blind Chen was momentarily speechless. Sly little one. Just like your grandma when she was young. The last sentence he said softly, and I didn't quite catch it. Blind Chen fell silent, gazing quietly towards the doorway, muttering. Just wait, it will be better after tonight. Chapter 15. My parents returned at 6 p.m. The same time as the day they had escorted my grandma's funeral. In addition to 2 bags of live animals, there were also a few steamed buns. They were for Blind Chen. None for me. Blind Chen held the buns but didn't share them with me. After we had eaten, he finally revealed to my parents the true identity of the humanoid figure from last night. It can't be. Rather than admitting that the entity was my grandpa, my dad preferred to believe it was my grandma. Master Chen, Flower's grandpa has been dead for years. How could he turn into a ghost wraith? Blind Chen nibbled on a bun. Why not? Did her grandpa not have any lingering attachments when he died? Well, of course he did. Seeing my dad suddenly looking despondent, I knew he remembered. When my grandpa passed away, he kept shouting, "Not enough life," all night. Before my dad could interject, I answered. Nobody says they've had enough life when they die. Master Chen, I'm telling you, that thing from last night must have been Flower's grandma. She hates us. What does she hate about you? Master Chen interrupted him. Does she hate you for promising and then going back on your word? Or does she hate you for turning a blind eye to her suffering all these years? The entire village had witnessed my grandma's hardships over the years. My dad, not paying much attention to Master Chen's words, awkwardly responded. Who hasn't gone through this? It's been decades, why is this suddenly coming up now? The educated youth who came together back then, didn't they lead normal lives till the end? Besides, I'm from the younger generation, how can I meddle in the affairs of the older generation? Compared to others, she endured less beatings. I clenched my fists. Master Chen was still smiling. Indeed. Men couldn't empathize with women. In their eyes, providing food, shelter, and a bed was already considered good treatment. If you don't believe it, let's see tonight. Master Chen spoke. That thing has fed on blood for 2 days straight, it won't be able to resist taking a human life tonight. When that thing sinks its teeth into your neck, you'll see clearly. No need to be that detailed. My dad rubbed his hands, a smile appearing on his face. Life and death don't weigh the same, no matter what that thing is, it shouldn't be here. Ah, yes, yes, yes. When that thing bites your neck, you shout, life and death don't weigh the same, you go your way on your single log bridge, I'll go mine on my stone path. After being retorted twice, my dad finally fell silent. Chapter 16. My dad belatedly realized that Master Chen was unhappy with him. But no matter how hard he thought, he couldn't figure out the reason. Not knowing what to do, he simply kept quiet, as he used to instruct me in the past. Now, he was doing it quite well himself. Seeing my dad being quiet, Master Chen snorted and continued speaking. Most likely, that thing is Flower's grandpa. It didn't come out before, probably due to insufficient resentment. The coffin you bought was also generous, so it couldn't emerge. Now that you've buried Flower's grandma together, opened the coffin, that thing was accidentally released. Originally not having had enough life, coupled with 3 years of pent-up resentment, it's likely to be quite troublesome. The night grew darker. My mom and dad turned on all the lights in the house. What if that thing is afraid of light? He doesn't have eyeballs, what's he afraid of? I glanced at Master Chen, who seemed particularly irritable tonight. Once again, my dad got scolded. And, as always, he didn't talk back. Compared to the slap he had delivered a few days ago, he was like a completely different person. So, what should we do tonight? Should we have someone bring some chickens and ducks over again? My dad asked in his usual good temper. No need, tonight we only need you as bait. Me. My dad stepped forward abruptly. Why me? Can't my wife do it? I saw my mom's face instantly pale. Why should it be me? That's your father. Definitely not, that's your father. Both voices sounded at the same time. Ignoring my mom's words, Master Chen spoke up. When a ghost wraith emerges, it's bound to feed on blood relatives. Although your wife calls him dad, there's no blood relation between them. What about Hua? Can't Hua do it? When my dad called my name, I wasn't surprised. She can't. She's just a girl, she definitely doesn't have your blood to attract the ghost wraith. If your youngest son were here, it could have been a different story. My dad looked regretful. Shouldn't have sent him away. But that's your real son. What's wrong with my real son? As long as I'm alive, I can have as many sons as I want in the future. My dad muttered a few words, then turned back to Master Chen. Master Chen. You have to save me. After you save me, I'll treat you as my real son and take care of you until the end. Master Chen was a childless elderly person living on welfare. Listening to my dad's words, he smiled slightly. You seem sensible enough, I'll help you out. Chapter 17. The night had grown pitch black. No one knew when that thing would arrive. Master Chen casually took out a pile of red sand from his pocket and handed it to my dad. When the time comes, I'll use my cane to point out the spot. Wherever I point, you bury this thing there. Listen to my godfather. I was speechless at my dad's shamelessness. Blind Chen remarked. You can be flexible and adaptable. The process of pointing and burying took over 2 hours to complete. My dad was exhausted. But he hadn't forgotten to attend to Master Chen well. He served tea, fetched water, almost to the point of being obsequious. Blind Chen was very satisfied. After taking a few sips of water, he had my dad sit in the middle of the yard. Just now, I had you follow the formation to bury him. As long as you sit there honestly, without moving or speaking, he won't find you. If you can hold out until dawn when the rooster crows, I'll be able to deal with him. Remember. You must not speak or move. If you make a sound, I can't guarantee your safety. My dad nodded vigorously, almost eager to swear an oath to the heavens. And what about me? My mom, seeing my dad's arrangements, also approached Master Chen. We don't share blood relation, so he shouldn't harm me, right? Master Chen replied. It's hard to say. If he can't find his son, he might come after his daughter-in-law. My mom panicked, pleading for Master Chen to save her. If you go in too, your daughter will be in danger. I don't have just one daughter. My mom was frantic. Master Chen, no, godfather, you have to save me too. After a moment of contemplation, Master Chen handed my mom a handful of red sand and had her sit in the middle with my dad. What about you? Do you want to sit in the middle too? Master Chen asked me. I'll go back to my room. I refused. Ignoring the relieved looks on my parents' faces, I turned and went back to my room. My grandma was still in there. Master Chen chuckled, putting the remaining sand back in his bag. Well, you stay in the room. Chapter 18. At 2 in the morning, a familiar humanoid figure appeared on the wall. His ankle was still tied with that red rope. This time, he seemed slightly plumper than before. Jumping down from the wall, he pulled out one of the live animals and began devouring it voraciously. The animal was only a meter away from my dad. Watching that thing approach, he couldn't help but flinch. My mom immediately pinched him. But Blind Chen had said not to speak, not to move. Now the two of them were like crickets tied together. My dad wasn't scared into making a sound by that thing, but he did break out in a cold sweat from the pinch my mom gave him. With just that pinch, the thing abruptly halted. He lifted his head, sniffing the air. His face was fully exposed in the light, unmistakably resembling my grandpa. Just a bit thinner. Not finding the scent he was looking for, a sense of urgency and ruthlessness appeared on his face. Not enough life. Not enough life. Not enough life. His sharp voice carried an endless chill. That voice was no different from my grandpa's voice before he died. I couldn't help but shiver. He released the animal, extending his hands, prancing around the yard searching for something. Each time it seemed like he was about to touch my dad, he narrowly missed. After a few close calls, both my dad and the thing were sweating profusely. As time passed, the humanoid figure seemed to grow more impatient. He stood in front of the animal in silence for a moment. Suddenly, he reached out and threw the animal across the yard. Dozens of animals flew through the air, a few of them hitting my dad and mom. At first, they could bear it. But when the chickens and ducks, startled and flapping, scratched them, my mom finally couldn't help but cry out in pain. The humanoid figure stopped moving. Under the light, that thing actually cracked a smile. My mom, trembling, hugged my dad tightly, too scared to even breathe. The humanoid figure drew closer. Just as it was about to touch them, my mom suddenly looked at me. In her eyes, there was a hint of reluctance, but more than that, a desire for life. In the next moment, she forcefully threw what she had in her hand at my window. It was a stone. The brick hit the window, making a crisp sound. The humanoid figure halted its steps, sniffed the air once more. Then, slowly turned its head to look at me. It had spotted me. I gripped the cane that Blind Chen had given me tightly, trying hard to calm myself down. I only had one chance. The humanoid figure was getting closer and closer. My breath slowed down. Just as that thing was about to grab me, a roar came from behind. Immediately after, a figure leaped out and grappled with the humanoid figure. It was my grandma. I stood there in shock for a few seconds, then rushed to the window. It was clear that my grandma was no match for the humanoid figure. She hugged the humanoid figure chaotically, fiercely biting with the teeth she had grown. Chingha! Faster than me, Blind Chen shouted out. He called out my grandma's name. My grandma didn't respond, purely relying on instinct in the struggle. Hua! The cane! Master Chen stumbled a few steps before remembering to turn and shout at me. Remembering the plan we had discussed earlier, I grabbed the cane and ran out. In this chaotic scene, my parents still remembered Master Chen's words and held back from moving. Don't mind them, just use the cane to stab that old beast. As long as the old beast was wounded, it would need the blood of a blood relative to heal. And once it harmed someone, divine punishment would be unavoidable. I had the thunder strike wooden cane in my hand. That old beast now had only one choice. Chapter 19. The situation was unfolding step by step according to our plan. Except for the sudden appearance of my grandma. Due to the fight, some of the things that had been buried were unearthed. The formation was now useless. The humanoid figure lunged towards my dad. It wasn't until it was pinned to the ground, the stench hitting him, that my dad finally confirmed that this thing in front of him was his real father. Dad, I'm your youngest son. The humanoid figure kept moving, trying to bite. At this moment, my mom had abandoned the sense of being tied to the same fate with my dad. She crawled and ran towards me. Seeing my grandma standing beside me, she turned and ran towards Blind Chen. Master Chen. No. Dad. Help us. Help us. Her face showed fear and panic. Master Chen ignored her, receiving the signal from me. He took the cane and quickly walked into the yard. Hua! Bury them. This time, it wasn't about defending, it was about trapping. Trap this thing in the middle of the yard with my dad until punishment arrives. In the darkness, I couldn't tell where my dad was injured. All I could smell was the increasingly thick stench of blood. Dawn was breaking. Time was almost up. Hurry. We absolutely can't let this thing escape. As the last pit was buried, the humanoid figure in the middle of the yard lifted its head. It seemed to have grown fatter. Or more precisely, its flesh and blood looked fuller. Now, it looked almost identical to how my grandfather had been before he passed. My mom was nowhere to be seen, probably hiding again, or I'd have to endure her screams. Didn't live long enough, huh? The same voice as before. Only this time, its gaze fell directly on me. Don't be afraid. Blind Chen stepped in front of me. Just wait a little longer. When the time of transition between Yin and Yang arrives, the ghost officials will patrol the world. This thing is so full of evil energy that it's bound to catch their attention. What if they don't notice it? I was nervous and instinctively glanced toward my grandma. In truth, I wanted to ask if my grandma might also be taken away. Even if they don't notice, as long as dawn comes, I have my ways to deal with it. Blind Chen's voice was cold. Looking at his back, I had the unsettling feeling that he had calculated all of this in advance. The humanoid figure in the middle of the yard was still groping around and hopping awkwardly. When it realized it wasn't getting anywhere, it stopped and tilted its head, wearing an expression of contemplation. A nameless dread began to creep over me. The source of that dread soon became clear. The humanoid figure grabbed one of my dad's legs and flung it away. Damn it! Blind Chen's voice, for once, carried a note of panic. This thing actually has a brain. Before I could make sense of what he meant, the humanoid figure had already used my dad as leverage and escaped the formation. Run! Instinctively, I grabbed my grandma and tried to flee. Her hand was icy cold, stiff to the touch. Her long nails, blunt yet thick, felt unnervingly solid. But she didn't resist, letting me drag her through the yard as we fled. The humanoid figure didn't chase after old Chen but kept its eyes locked on me. Hua! Hold on. Dawn is almost here. Blind Chen, clutching his cane, hid by the doorway and shouted at me. Don't let your grandma come over. She's an old bag of bones and can't run fast. He still had the mind to think about that at a time like this? I held my breath and moved even faster. Unconsciously, I realized dawn was finally breaking. Thick fog enveloped the yard. The sound of chains rattling came from within the mist. My grandma's figure suddenly froze. And with her, so did my grandpa. He abandoned the chase after me and leapt toward the wall. Just as he was about to escape, a hand emerged from the mist and grasped the dangling red string. The movement seemed light, almost gentle, yet my grandpa was yanked back as if something had seized him, slamming him forcefully onto the ground. No, no. I haven't had enough time to live. He tried to struggle but was gradually dragged into the fog. When the mist dispersed, all that remained was a pile of disorganized bones. Was it over? I stood there in a daze. Grandpa had been taken away. But what about Grandma? I turned to look at her. She stood behind me, her green jacket now tattered and worn. Her hands were still stiff and icy cold. But her eyes, at some point, they had closed. Do you think the old lady refused to close her eyes because she had some unfinished wish? The words of a relative echoed in my ears once again. Grandma, was it because you saw Grandpa face retribution that you finally closed your eyes? Or was it because you knew I was finally safe? Chapter 20. Once everything had settled, I brought Grandma to the funeral home. Blind Chen paid for it. He carried her ashes and led me to the back mountain. The wind atop the mountain was strong as he carefully scattered her ashes little by little. Your grandma spent her whole life shackled, by the times, by rules, by what she saw, and by her children. In death, let her be free for once. I knelt beside him, silently watching. I never asked about what had happened between Blind Chen and Grandma. But I knew, it must have been full of tragedy and regret. Coming down from the mountain, Blind Chen handed me a bankbook. This is the dowry I've saved my whole life. Your grandma's dowry was melted down by your mom. It's probably gone for good. From now on, use this bankbook to support yourself. His voice sounded like a mix of laughter and tears. Just take it. Take it as a token from her and me. I took the bankbook and solemnly bowed to him 3 times. You raised me when I was young, and I'll take care of you when you're old. You funded my education, and in the future, I'll see you through to the end. I didn't call him Grandpa anymore, nor did I call him Blind Chen. Instead, I started calling him Uncle Chen. Uncle Chen refused to leave the village. After I started school, he moved to the back mountain to live. It was like my mom and I had silently agreed to cut ties. We stayed out of each other's business and didn't seek any updates. During summer vacation, I heard bits and pieces of the aftermath from a few friends in the know. After we left, the neighbors came to our house, saw the chaos in the yard, and called the police. The police arrived and sent my dad to the hospital, then tried to contact my mom. She refused to go and wouldn't even answer the phone. The villagers pooled some money together to save my dad and then dumped him at the door of my mom's parents' house. Under social pressure, my mom reluctantly took him back and cared for him. But from what I heard, she frequently insulted and hit him. My dad had thought about asking for help, but his beloved children only advised him to endure it. Grandma managed to get through it, didn't she? For the sake of family harmony, just let Mom vent her anger. You're disabled, and Mom still gives you food and shelter. That's already pretty generous. Grandma used to handle everything at home and in the fields, suffering through hunger and cold. Even then, she got beaten every now and then. You've got to learn to be content and appreciate the good things in life. You and Mom have been through decades together. If you split up now, wouldn't people laugh at our family? Faced with this circular logic, my dad opened his mouth but couldn't find the words to argue. With the support of her children, my mom's initial guilt turned into righteous confidence. Later, she even brazenly brought her new lover home to mess around. My dad couldn't resist and didn't dare to end his life, so he spent his days screaming in frustration. Each scream ended in fights and curses with my mom. Over time, my dad became as lifeless as my grandma once was. Men who've been beaten down are like dough kneaded soft. When I returned home to transfer my household registration, I overheard my mom proudly sharing her experience with others. I didn't interrupt her. I just silently watched my dad sitting in the corner. He was seated in a chair, his lower body paralyzed. Flies buzzed around him. Occasionally, a few landed on him, but he didn't bother to shoo them away, as if he were a silent statue. But I didn't miss the darkness in his eyes, a venom as deep and black as ink. The next time I heard about them was when I returned home after graduation to visit Uncle Chen. I heard that my dad had one last moment of defiance. After my mom and her lover were done fooling around, he crawled over with a knife and slashed them both. When the villagers discovered them, there were 3 bodies lying quietly in the house. The walls of the house were covered with the word, Mother. I think, perhaps he regretted it in the end. Uncle Chen was already very old. After Grandma passed away, his spirit seemed to vanish entirely. But that day, he suddenly felt energetic and, leaning on his cane, took me up the mountain once more. The mountain was now covered with flowers. Every kind imaginable, some blooming vibrantly, while others looked withered and frail. Your grandma loved flowers the most, Uncle Chen said. He groped his way to sit down, a relaxed smile on his face. Hua. Child, Uncle is leaving soon. Don't be sad, all right? I bit my lip, holding back my sobs. I'm a useless man and blind at that, not worthy to be your grandma's savior. I've guarded her for so many years. I've come to accept it. About your grandpa's matter. Uncle, don't say it. I already know. I interrupted him. I know everything. I knew all of this was Uncle Chen's plan. His revenge. My dad was the bait Uncle Chen set, and so was I. But Uncle Chen wasn't heartless, he had given them a chance. If my dad had agreed to Grandma's terms, the chain of events that followed wouldn't have happened. This wasn't Uncle Chen's crime, nor was it his fault. Uncle Chen paused and then let out a low chuckle. I forgot, you take after your grandma. You're a clever child. He handed me his cane. Go on now, head down the mountain. I'll stay here and talk with your grandma. Come back tomorrow. I clutched the cane tightly, unwilling to leave. I knew that once I left, he would go, just like Grandma. I would become that child without anyone to love me again. But I still walked away. Uncle Chen had waited for Grandma his entire life, watched over her his entire life. These final moments should be left for them alone. I sat at the foot of the mountain all night. When I climbed back up the next day, Uncle Chen was lying peacefully among the flowers, his eyes closed. Following his earlier instructions, I scattered his ashes down the mountain. The mountain wind swept them up, like a farewell, and yet reluctant to part. If there is a next life. If we can meet again. I hope that all our wishes can finally come true.